Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Library Advisory Commission LAC meeting for April 19, 2021. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. To join this webinar using a telephone only, please dial any of the following numbers and I'll read two of them aloud. 1-833-548-0276 or 1-877-853-5247, and then slowly enter the webinar ID of 98969525756. As an attendee, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. Your microphone is muted for the entire presentation unless you have a comment. However, you do not need a microphone, camera, or a screen if you only want to listen to this meeting, as it is accessible by landline or mobile phone. The Commission will take public comments as outlined in the posted agenda and in the next slides. All comments must include the agenda item number and be received prior to the close of public comment on that agenda item. If you're joining by computer, you may use the Q&A feature to type your comments. On the attendee control bar near the bottom of the screen, you'll see the Q&A icon. You may also use the raise hand icon to raise your hand. The moderator will call your name when it is your turn, state your full name for the record, and then continue with your comment. You will have 3 minutes of speaking time. If you're using a mobile device, the Q&A icon and raise hand icons likely appear near the top right corner of the screen. So everything's in reverse. In the upper left corner, you'll see leave meeting in red letters. And then in the upper right corner, you'll see both the raise hand and the Q&A icon. If you've used Zoom to call into this meeting, you may raise your hand by pressing *9 on your keypad. The moderator will call out the last 3 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to comment. Press *6 to unmute yourself. You'll then have 3 minutes of speaking time. Once the commission begins, if you're joining by computer, to see all panelists, you may need to use the Zoom control bar and select Gallery View. Depending on the size of your mobile device screen, you may need to scroll over to view whoever is speaking. And finally, if you're accessing this meeting via the web browser only or a Chromebook, you will not see all panelists at one time, only the panelists speaking. The chair of the commission, Lindsay Bass, will now call the meeting to order. We are transitioning to Gallery View. Please stand by.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, commissioners, library director, and staff, and the public. I will call our Monday, April 19th meeting to order. Clerk Sumano Vargas, will you please do a roll call to order?
Rena Dubin.
Present.
Jim Landreth. Absent. Mary Ripma.
Present.
Mike Termini.
Present.
Tricia Wynn.
Present.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter.
Present.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Present. Great. So item number 2 on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Before we move forward with any motions, are there any questions or do we have any public comments on the agenda?
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Then do I have a motion?
I move approval of the agenda.
Was that Mary seconding?
Rena.
Yes. Okay. Oh, Rena. Thank you, Rena. Great.
Mary's
okay.
fine.
So I have a move by Commissioner Wynn and a second by Commissioner Dubin. Clerk Sumano Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin.
Present. Aye.
Mary Ripma.
Aye.
Mike Termini.
Aye.
Tricia Wynn.
Aye.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter.
Aye.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. Great. Moving right along. Item number 3 on our agenda is oral communications. If any member of the audience would like to address the board on any matter, either on or off the agenda that is within the board's jurisdiction, they can do so now. In general, we reserve 3 minutes per speaker and limit this time frame to 30 minutes as a maximum. Moderator Jones, do we have any public comment?
Chair Bass, we do have 2 members of the public who'd like to speak. Phone caller ending in 362. Go ahead. You may need to unmute your line. It's caller ending in 362. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Judy Grunstra. Good evening, everyone. And I just wanted to wish Bruce Cotter good luck, and I really appreciate his responsiveness to my concerns. And I'm sure you'll be a great asset to the Friends, and I hope to see transparency in their operations as well. So good luck and thanks. Good night.
Thank you, Judy.
And Jean Brocklebank, go ahead.
Good evening, commissioners. I had intended to stay for the whole meeting, and I'm not going to be able to. So I sent 3 different comments on 3 agenda items to clerk at santacruzpubliclibrary.org. And I got an automatic reply on them from Ivan that my comments had been forwarded to the commissioners. That's the message in there. But the instructions said, if I want my comments read during the meeting, I should send the email and put the agenda item in the subject line and somebody will read it. And so I just want to alert you, I don't know if Ivan's at the meeting also, but I did send 3 comments on 3 agenda items, and I'm hoping that somebody will be reading them at the appropriate time during that agenda item. And they're very short, and did ask that they be read slowly, not fast. They'll all be less probably than 30 seconds. So if you could, Lindsay, if you're able to just confirm that okay, I see the okay. All right, I'm sorry that I can't stay for the rest of the meeting. I will let you know that, as always, I appreciate having the full agenda packet, which I thoroughly digested and read, and appreciate that so much, being able to have that document, and appreciate all of you and all the work you do. Thank you very much, and have a nice meeting.
And Moderator Jones, are there any other public comments before we close?
Chair Bass, I do not see further public comment.
Okay, and then I'll just take this moment to confirm with Clerk Simona Vargas and yourself. I see 2 comments from Judy that are clearly marked according to the agenda. I just want to make sure that the 3rd is on your radar, and that we'll be able to read that when the time comes.
Chair Bass, I do have 3 comments.
But those comments were from Judy. That was Jean who was just speaking.
Sorry. No, I have comments from Jean.
Oh, okay, because I don't see them, so.
Okay. Great. Thank you for confirming, Moderator Jones. And I'll just echo our sadness. I know we'll get to it, but I would echo Judy's comments, definitely. This is another sad moment. But yes, good luck. And it's exciting that the Friends have such a great resource coming their way. So
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to agenda item number 4, which is the report by our library director, Director Nemitz. The floor is yours.
Well, April 4th through 10th was National Library Week, and many of you volunteered to bring cookies to the staff. Not only were the cookies beautiful, but they were well appreciated, and I think almost needed that week. So thank you so much for doing that. I included a note that we got from one of our patrons that just was this beautiful note about how libraries have made a difference in his life. I hope you have the opportunity to read it. And I sent you some of the photographs some of our patrons sent in for National Library Week. I have to say, we really, really miss our customers. So especially the young ones It's a blast to see pictures of kids reading at home. We can't wait till they come and read with us again. I did include that we have an Earth Day project. That's a to-go project. So we're doing a lot of advertising around that. If you know anybody who might benefit from an Earth Day kit, please send them our ways. Dr. Seuss has been a big sort of national headline. The staff takes these issues really seriously, issues of censorship, but also in terms of how they curate a quality collection for our community. We did have interested staff meeting, and that they determined that the 6 titles, 5 of the 6 titles that are left in our collection will remain in our collection, but we won't be repurchasing them. They will be unavailable for repurchase as they age. But there's a little explanation of sort of the conclusion that was reached. I'm very excited that we've been selected to participate in Cultivating Race, Equity, and Inclusion initiative in the state of California. We're one of 10 libraries. I'm hearing really great things about this program. You know, in the region, we tend to look towards Oakland and San Francisco and a lot of the work they've done on racial equity. And I got great recommendations, try to be part of this organization. So I was really pleased that our equity team managed to get us to be a participant in that program. Tricia?
Yeah, comment. Thank you. In a prior life, I was on the board of California Humanities. I know how competitive those grants are. I'm super impressed that you put together a program that got funding. $5,000 is not very much money, but it's, you know, it does give you a little bit to do something. And I just really want to congratulate you for stretching, for, you know, for innovating, and for successfully, you know, pulling down one of those grants. Great job.
And I just really want to acknowledge Eric is leading our equity initiative. As you guys get into strategic planning and over the next year, equity is going to be a huge part of what we talk about. But we've got this core team of committed staff that Eric's providing leadership to. And I think they're really setting up the ability to lay a foundation that we desperately need in the Santa Cruz Public Library. So I just want to give a shout out to Eric. Bruce, what can I say? I met Bruce at a coffee shop after he called me and said, you know, I'm interested in volunteering in some way with the library. And I thought, oh my God, this person's so amazing. How can we get them involved? And we got you involved in a million ways. And it's not surprising to me that you're gracious and generous enough to take on the Friends right now. You know, the Friends is evolving and really going to be an extraordinary organization, but they've had a lot of interesting challenges. And I think trying to get to a singular vision has actually been really tough. And Bruce, I think you're the right man at the right time to really help that group go to the next level. I'm really going to miss your leadership on this group. I think you do have a vision and sense of libraries that has been really helpful to me. But I also know what good work you're going to do there. So thank you so much for being willing to do that. And maybe if you tire of that someday, you can come back and
certainly hope so.
Work with us again. Facilities, wow. You know, the facilities keep moving forward. I did include pictures of the empty Branciforte and the empty Garfield Park. Kind of takes your breath away, doesn't it? Such beautiful buildings, such beautiful bones. I really can't wait to bring them back to the community. But I think in some ways, when you see them empty, you don't see the dowdy old, you know, icky furniture. You see the extraordinary facilities that they can be in. We're so excited. We've made major progress on Aptos, moving forward, picking furniture. La Selva Beach opened. I think the virtual grand opening was way lovelier than I expected. And we're about to open Capitola on June 12th. I know Mike was in for a sneak peek over the weekend. I don't know if you want to add anything, but a lot of exciting things going on with our facilities.
I would love to add something. And this goes for all of the branches, but Capitola specifically because I gave the tour on Saturday to some citizens. We're going to pat ourselves on the back and we should be commended as a community. The passage of that bond and what we did with it was nothing short of remarkable. Every single branch that's been touched winds up being, the community's in awe of it. From Felton to Little Garfield or Tel Selva, everyone, and it was no different in Capitola. I mean, it was bookless, but it had furniture, it had stacks, and everyone was just blown away. So thank you.
And I do want to say it's not the building that changes the community, it's the community coming together and learning together that changes the community, but the building is meant to inspire that. And I really think we're developing buildings unique to each of these communities. They definitely aren't carbon copies, but that really will inspire young and old to come together and create community. Trisha.
I also just really want to shout out to Capitola. You guys were at the vanguard. I mean, you had to go first and it was really hard and it seemed, such daunting obstacles, but you in opening that beautiful library is going to make it easier for every other library to raise the money that we need to get a beautiful library. So I really just, my hat's off to you and Felton. It was really hard work, but you made it easy for the rest of us. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And just for everyone else who's going to go out and beat the streets for money for whichever branch or for whatever purpose, I don't like to fundraise. I'm called upon to do it a lot, and they have to get me kicking and screaming into fundraising. And I met with Gail Ortiz with about half a dozen potential large donors, and no one said no. No one made us uncomfortable. They just pointed to a room and said, "Gee, I like that room. I'll take that." Or "I like that children's wing. I'll take that." I walked out of the first meeting and I went, "Do you know how much money they just gave us?" And it just went on and on and on. We lose sight of how popular we are. We really do. We hide our light under a bushel consistently. And people love the library across the board, despite people you hear about who say libraries are passé. I tell them to take one visit to any branch. It completely shuts them up when they see branches and every one full. So how passé can a full building be?
Yeah.
My kind of passé. That's all I have.
And are there any other comments or questions for Director Nimitz?
I don't know if it's under board, statements or just a question for Susan. I noticed the letter from Anna Eshu, and $5 billion is a lot of money. Are we going to get any of that?
Well, John Laird is also an author of this. I think it would be unlikely that they would put $5 billion out there, but I do think, considering the wealth of the state of California, the physical conditions of their libraries is pretty bad. The infrastructure in California has suffered, and I think libraries and local government have taken the brunt of that deficiency. So I remain hopeful, and I will lobby for it. I do have to continually point out that the downtown project, and I'm thinking systemically, is incredibly underfunded. And we still have a lot of money that we need to make that a project fruitful.
That was exactly where my comment was going, was downtown. And if you need me to call anybody I might have, done political crimes with, I'll be glad to jump in there with you.
I think, Bruce, you should write that one down.
I already did.
Bruce,
I just want
me
to make a
too.
comment about the Dr. Seuss. It sounds like everyone's decided, and I wondered if you might make some sort of a book plate so that someone checking it out would realize that the considerations that have been made.
You know what, we've traditionally stayed away from doing so. Another thing that people often ask for is the MPAA rating systems on the movies. And, you know, sometimes it's on the disc and you can see it, but we tend not to add additional labels that might, I don't know, in some way recommend or not recommend a particular title.
Wasn't so much thinking of recommending as just avoiding people who check it out and then come back and complain or are concerned that why is this on the shelf? More of a backstory about how people have taken the situation really seriously. But you know best, so just an idea.
Eric, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it was part of the discussion, actually, that was raised by some staff members. And I think the general conclusion, and something that we'll still consider, is that there are unfortunately so many books, when you look back over just the last 10 years, for instance, how far we've come, that you could reasonably see them as offensive. So the question is, if we start with Dr. Seuss, where do we stop? And so we're really trying to take a forward approach to this in terms of, you know, looking at what books are really representative of our community and we can bring into the collection and then include in our book talks, include in our displays, include in our story time. So we're really trying to take that more forward approach, just because it would be daunting to go back, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. And then Commissioner Wynn, did you have a comment that you wanted to make? No? Okay. Any other questions or comments on the director's report? Okay. I'll just say it was super fun to deliver cookies to the staff. They're amazing. Seeing their faces light up was awesome. And Bruce, we hope you won't be a stranger. So come back to us in your new role and after your new role. Great. Now I'm going to move on to item. I'm not going to move on. I'm going to ask Moderator Jones, do we have any public comments on the director's report?
Chair Bass, we do have a public comment from Jean Brocklebank. This is agenda item number 4. She says, my name is Jean Brocklebank. I very much support the library decision to not automatically remove, that is, censor Dr. Seuss books. Thank you, Jean. And that ends her comment.
Great, thank you. Are there any other public comments?
There are no further public comments at this time.
Great. Thank you, Jean, for being so organized to have your comments ready for us as we go through the agenda. We appreciate that. Okay, then we'll move along to item number 5, which is our member reports. So, commissioners, feel free to take this time if you have reports. Please have some updates.
You know, I would just like to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to Judy and to Susan and to Lindsay for all the kind words. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all of you for serving with me and allowing me to serve with you. It has been an honor and a joy. I've really enjoyed taking part in this organization. You're a great group. You will do great work in the future. I would note that I've been in communication with J.M. Brown. We do have a good candidate identified, a woman up in Felton who has children in school and is active on the Felton Steering Committee and has expressed a real interest in doing this. So she and J.M. are now engaged, and hopefully she will be part of your next meeting. I, on the other hand, am not going away. I did feel like, as a question, just not wanting to have anything that looked like a conflict of interest, it was best that I not serve anymore on the LAC. But I will be joining Jean and Judy and all the rest of them. You won't be seeing my smiling face, but I will be talking on the telephone. And I really look forward to continuing being in contact with all of you. It's a big thing I'm taking on. It's an important time for the Friends and for getting all of these libraries across the finish line. Garfield Park and Branciforte, and then downtown and Aptos, and it's a chunk. And I really felt that was the thing that I was directed to do right now. So again, thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Bruce. Are there any other member reports? My lights just went off. So apologies for that. There's not a ghost in my room. Any other member reports before we move along? Okay. Very good. And glad to hear that we have a good candidate waiting in the wings to fill big shoes. So thank you for that update, Bruce. That's great. Item number 6 on the agenda tonight is our consent calendar. And we have item A and B on the calendar. Our minutes from our February 22nd meeting, which the recommended action is to approve the minutes, and item B is the written communications to the commission. Are there any questions on the consent calendar? Any need to pull either of those two items? Are there any public comments on the consent calendar?
Chair Bass, there are no public comments on the consent calendar.
Then I'd like to entertain any motions.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
A second.
Okay. So Commissioner Wynn, motion to approve. Commissioner or Vice Chair Cotter, second. Clerk Simona Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Juven,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Tricia Wynn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter,
Aye.
Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Thanks. We're now moving on to item 7, which is our general business. We have several items here to work through tonight. And so just I'll ask commissioners, please keep that in mind as we're moving through. If somebody else has made a point, let's just try and keep our comments as brief as possible. I don't want to limit any important comments, but we do have quite a bit to work through. So with that, I will move along to the first item, which is the plan to reopen.
And Eric, our trustee leader, is going to talk us through this. It's been a challenging couple of weeks.
Thanks, Susan. Good evening, commissioners. I know we have a number of items, so in the interest of being conscious of this time, I want to, though, give you a very quick history of how we got to where we are right now. We've gone through a number of transitions since the beginning of this pandemic, but this has always been a dual challenge. It's been a challenge trying to make sense of the changing health codes, but the second challenge has been staffing. We were hit with significant reductions this time last year that resulted in us freezing positions, reducing, actually suspending our on-call staff, our temporary staff, and then everyone on staff had to take a furlough. So it significantly reduced what we had to do when, in fact, much of our labor increased, because the first stage that we went into was a curbside model, trying to adhere to the new health rules. So staff were bringing items outside to patrons. This was really very labor intensive. And then as those health codes changed, we were able to allow patrons to come into the lobby. We had to really limit and reduce it. We added filtration systems to our buildings. We trained staff how to manage patrons coming in. And then you may remember we were doing all of this right at the end of the bad health days because of all the fires that were going on. So we were juggling closures at that time too because of unhealthy air. And then we had to close some branches as well because of the fire evacuation. So needless to say, it's been a challenging year. And right now, we are in our grab and go model. And the recent health changes have allowed us to open up the computer lab. So when we have enough staff, we're able to provide computer labs at our locations that we've been running since COVID put us in this situation. Now, fortunately, that the health indicators are improving, we are going forward with a plan. We met with the union. We have another official meet and confer this coming week, and then another one later to nail down dates and to go over what this will look like more specifically. But this is essentially the model that we first introduced to them. And we also have to recognize that we have other challenges in addition to staffing and the health concerns. We still have parents who have children and they're trying to juggle daycare for their children. We still have the health and safety considerations, and we are trying hard to ensure that we make it as easy as possible for staff to get vaccinated. And I think we are doing a good job with that. We've offered to all staff that we will assist them in any way possible to get vaccinated. So that's the quick history and context of where we are right now. And we are always going to base our decisions on the science that exists. The science out of the CDC has also just recently signaled to us that we can stop with the quarantine of our items. The science is pretty clear on this, that the pandemic has been driven by airborne exchange of the virus. And we're also not going to be the first library to do this. San Francisco actually contacted their health services department, and they gave them the go-ahead to stop the quarantine of items. And we've also now seen the State Library of Oregon provide the same information to all their libraries as well. So we will notify the public that we are going to make that change, and this will, vastly expedite when you make a request for an item at the library. We'll be able to, after some time, after we get through all of those returns, we'll be able to get those items to you much faster, since we won't have the delay as a result of the quarantine of these items. That'll begin on April 26th. And then we're going to begin to pilot in May a return to many of the services that the community has certainly been extremely hungry for, which is to begin to browse inside the libraries. You can see in the report how we are going to begin piloting it first at La Selva. And so there are 4 possible libraries there, but they're not going to happen all at once. So we're going to see how this goes, first with La Selva, and then we'll roll it out probably the following week to Felton and Live Oak. We don't have a date certain yet for when this will occur in May. Like I said, we still have to talk to the union, and then we will begin to map that out, and we will certainly make that available to the public once we have that confirmed. And so we'll get through, hopefully in May, if all goes well, La Selva, Felton and Live Oak, Scotts Valley. We're still considering Aptos. Aptos will be at the very tail end. And the consideration there is if we're only going to be having, if we're going to go through this big transition and it's only going to last for 2 weeks because we're going to be closing Aptos for its construction, is that worth the investment in time? So we may hold off on Aptos. And as you can see, we have still a number of modifications through the month of May. A lot of this that was jump-started, of course, was what the governor had announced a couple weeks ago when he told the the world that California will be reopening mid-June. So that started to put us into high gear to try to get things prepped so that we can begin to do that in line with hopefully the rest of the state. He did have two major criteria though. He didn't just say that it's going to open up. His criteria included, and there were some other caveats as well, but his criteria included that the hospitalization rates would continue to decline, and that there would be enough supply for vaccination for everyone to get it 16 and older and then there were some other caveats as well. But we are hopeful that we are coming out of this storm, and so that takes us to June. And you notice that on that list we didn't have downtown. We likely will not go through a kind of this browsing stage with modifications with downtown. Instead, by mid-June, we hope to just open up downtown. There'll still be some modifications, and we're looking at those. And we'll also be bringing online, of course, Capitola in June as well. And on here, one thing that's not on here too is, I don't think it's on there, is that we'll be piloting some outdoor events during the summer, 3 for summer reading, to try to call attention to summer reading, of course, and the big programs that we put on for that, but also hopefully to draw attention to the fact that our expectation is we will be back to our standard operation in September. So Bruce, we hope to see your smiling face in person, because our goal is to bring everything back into the beautiful program rooms that we have, and continue with that rotation so that we can be in Capitola and have the LAC appear there, and really be back to our standard operation. And the reason why we're picking September is because our expectation is to restore funding to what we need in order to bring the staff back. And as you all know, if we do get that funding restored, it doesn't happen instantly. We still have to recruit for the staff. We have to train them and onboard them. And that takes time. So in some ways, it's actually very optimistic to be back to our standard operations in September, since we're giving ourselves essentially 2 months to recruit and onboard enough staff so that we can manage the hours that we're shooting for. So we will likely still have some modifications in September. I don't think anybody thinks that mask wearing is going to go away anytime soon. But that, in a nutshell, is where we hope to head over the next few months. Susan, I'm sure I left something out. So
I just want to say that this is an iterative process with a lot of pieces. The thing about the union is changes in working conditions need to be go through a meet and confer process. It doesn't necessarily mean that the union can say you can't do this, but they need to be able to talk to their members and give us feedback. And the staff have been going through serious ongoing changes for 14 months. So we really need to respect that process. The other thing I just need to say is it will be soon that we're in a position where the staffing limitations is the greater limitation, greater than the health limitations. We've got about 10 full-time equivalent staff out through the furloughs. We've got about 15 full-time equivalent staff out in frozen positions right now. And we have about 60 bodies in the temporary staff. So that's a lot of positions. We'll get likely the furlough piece back by July 1st. But the other two will take some time. So.
Okay, thank you guys. Questions, Commissioner Wynn?
Is there a plan to rehire people that were let go first? And if that is the case, how many of those people do you think you will get back? I mean, I'm sure some of them had fake jobs doing something else.
Of the 60 people that were in our temporary staff, we just sent an email to them this week saying who's willing to come back. The great thing is if they are, we don't have to put them through the full hiring process. In particular, we don't have to redo the background check, which can take, 60 days to accomplish. So we committed to the union that we would put anyone who's willing back on our rolls from that group. With the 15 frozen positions, they are just people who have retired. And so we'll have to recruit 4 new people. So if you know anyone who needs a job, there's some really great jobs at the library.
Any other questions on the reopening plan?
I just want to thank Eric again and Laura Whaley. They have massive spreadsheets behind all of this and have been working very hard. Our expectation at our May meeting is that we will give you some specific hours by branch, and we'll get into that in the hours conversation.
Commissioner Dubin, do you have a question?
Yes, I was just curious, are you taking the seating out and how you're managing that and also the bathrooms?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we are going to be removing kind of convenient seating. If someone's in a situation where common sense is going to rule. So if there's a customer who needs to sit down, we will provide a seat. But the bathrooms will open up, and so we do intend, and mid-September is really just around the corner. So we really want to begin to prep for restoring all of our services.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? And I think it's from my own personal standpoint, it's really, really interesting how the reopening has started to happen, and the fact that now the limiting factor is no longer COVID-19, but the budgetary constraints, which is very telling. So thank you guys for working through both of those very tricky dynamics. Let's turn to our moderator to see if there are any public comments.
Chair Bass, we do have a public comment on item 7A. It says, my name is Jean Brocklebank. I have thoroughly read the staff report for this item and strongly support all within. Thank you, Jean Brocklebank. And that ends the comment.
Great, thank you. So we have a recommended motion in front of us, which is to review and endorse the plan for a phased reopening. Are there any motions to consider?
May I just make a quick comment?
Sure.
Before we do that, I just think it's, I appreciate all the hard work that you've done. And I know there's so much going on behind the scenes. And I also think the library is so important. And I would just encourage that we open as thoroughly and quickly as safety and budget allows.
Well said, Commissioner Dubin. Great, and I have.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, Commissioner Wynn, do you have a motion?
I have a motion to approve the recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. So Commissioner Wynn, motion to approve. We have Commissioner Dubin seconding. Clerk Simano Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin.
Aye.
Mary Ripma.
Aye.
Mike Termini.
Aye.
Tricia Wynn.
Aye.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter.
Aye.
Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Great. Moving right along to library budget update. Again, I'm going to turn the floor over to Director Nimitz.
I will try not to belabor this. Last time we had a discussion I was really pushing that the JPA would endorse a plan that would give the full maintenance of effort contributions to the library, and allow us to spend our fund balance and really begin creating the plan for how we maintain our facilities in the future. The JPA discussed it and do not want to do that. I'm a little disappointed. We were supposed to get a $70,000 increase. They did agree to a $320,000 increase to our revenues. And they are seeking a separate process where they're going to delay the MOE discussions for a year. I'm particularly disappointed because we have the four people who have to decide unanimously are four people who've been around for a long time, and I really think could negotiate this rather quickly. Martin Bernal, the city administrator for the city of Santa Cruz, is announcing his retirement, and we will get someone new on the JPA. So I really don't know how that will go next year. I think the implication of the MOE agreement is that the city of Santa Cruz is going to have to bring a lot more money to the table. The truth of the matter is, I believe they could make that adjustment this year with some of the funds, federal funds that they're getting for COVID. I think next year will be a more difficult year and we'll have a new entity. So they haven't made it clear why they want to do this, but they unanimously voted to put it off. I think they also really want to put off the discussion around maintenance of facilities. I think there's some territoriality around funds and how facilities are going to be maintained. Again, my hope is that we end up with a single approach to maintaining facilities where the city of Santa Cruz pays its fair share. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to wait another year. They did agree to putting off the cost allocation study for the overhead. And they gave me some direction on spending the reserves. The truth of the matter, though, is I don't yet have the forecast from the Santa Cruz budget office of what this year's reserve is likely to be. So it's very difficult to follow the instruction until I know that number. Basically, what I am putting before you is the kinds of things that we're asking for and what they cost. Discontinuing the furloughs, filling the frozen positions, rehiring the temporary staff. That's about $2.3 million, just to sort of put us back to square one. I get the sense that they support that. I am not feeling that in any way that they're concerned about that. One of the things they keep saying to me is that I haven't made a compelling enough argument about why we need more staff. I'm frustrated by that, but I need to just be, I need to listen to that and try to come up with a solution. I asked them how I could be more compelling, and they've suggested that we hire a management analyst who can do all sorts of sort of data analysis and studies. Again, I'm frustrated by that because I can't staff the front desk, and a management analyst is $100,000. And I think our numbers are so far off a mean that I don't know how you could become more compelling. I think the other concern I have is that with the branches opening and closing over a 7-year period, our data is all messed up. So we won't have really good data until 2025. So we can try to benchmark our system against other systems, but the truth of the matter is 2 branches were closed this year and 3 branches were closed the next year. So it's not going to really give us a real sense of what actual and appropriate use is and is going to be. but they wanted me to request the management analyst. So I'm doing that. I think a big thing for us as a system is when we were bringing this forward last year, for those of you who have been around a while, we really do want to eliminate late fees. I think we put a position paper created by the staff in your document. The idea being that late fees often prove a barrier for low income people. There are literally thousands of people in our system who can't check out an item because they owe more than $10. We hate to see that happen and would really like to move away from that. If you want, we can get into that more, but I really suggest you read the position paper. Eric, someone else, was it San Jose just announced they're dropping it this week? Most of the Bay, Boston Public. Most of the Bay Area libraries are in the process. And I just want to clarify that if someone never returns a book, they would pay the replacement value. But we're not going to make, the idea would be you wouldn't make them pay for being 3 weeks late. And in fact, many library systems who have done this found that they get a higher return of the item. It's better to have the item back so that we can recirculate it. And Sarah Harbison, our collections manager, included some data from some other library systems. There's some little things like we want to upgrade 2 positions. We want to add 4 FTE, but we don't think we need to do it until halfway through the year as we open libraries in the spring. We want to maintain what we're calling our flex team, which is a group of staff whose sole job has been to open and close branches so that our public service people can stay on the desks. And we want to add $50,000 to our capital maintenance funds so that we begin to build the annual amount that's available, even if the board hasn't yet decided how they're going to spend it. I want to make sure that there's a pool that is defined for capital changes to our buildings. And then a small amount for professional assistance. We're going to be doing strategic planning, equity training. We may need help with the long-term capital maintenance plan. We'd like to look at RFID considering our staffing shortage. One last thing I didn't include was I would like the board in May to approve our temporary hiring so that those 67 bodies we could actually begin to fill now. I do believe we have enough in our fund balances this year, which would at least give us a group of people by July 1st then. And then we could focus on the permanent positions between July and September. I included because there were questions about our fund balance history. I think you can see that we've had healthy and sizable fund balances over the last 10 years. And I just want to say that I really do believe the library has been consistently financially responsible during thick and thin. And I do believe we need more staff.
Great, thank you, Director Nimitz. Let's open this up to beginning questions from commissioners. Commissioner Wynn?
Well, I understand that it's really frustrating, but they have given you a roadmap. And I know you feel confident that if you brought in a management consultant, they would find what you know, which is we're seriously understaffed. And I just feel like, even though it's very bureaucratic and it just feels, like a way, I would just do it. I would recommend that we do it just to, this is what they asked for. This is the roadmap out. And yeah, it seems frustrating. And yeah, wouldn't it be great to spend that $100,000 elsewhere? But they've told you what we need to do to move forward. So I'd be inclined to just pull the trigger, and I'd be willing to support that.
I gotta just say a little vent here that it makes me mad when we have one part of the meeting saying how supportive this community is. And it feels like the people that are, doling out the money and controlling the purse strings really are not. And why do they have a library director if they feel they're going to have to second guess that person and have them, so I'm mad, but I think Trish is right. But everything you've listed here is fine, but the management analyst is just a waste. I'm sorry to say that, but that's my feeling.
Commissioner Dubin.
Yes, I have a strong feeling against the management position, and I understand what Trish is saying, but I also think that there is a political will for us to staff these libraries. I think most people in the community, it's an easy sell. It's an easy understand. And I don't think we've really tapped that. I think it's hard because some of the people on the JPA, they're not elected officials, but I do think that we can, if we wanted to go this way, to save $100,000 and put it towards staff that I think will be much more useful to the community, especially at these times. I do think we can put some political pressure to maybe get things moving forwards in a better direction.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Termini.
I have several questions for you, Susan. First of all, it's not surprising that a room full of city managers wants more analysis. And it pushes a button so big in me as a former city official, it just drives me out of my mind, including my time on the RTC, which is the champion of analysis. Can they not see the nexus between number of staff and open hours? I mean, it's clear to anyone who can do addition and subtraction. I'm shocked at that. But enough said about that. With regard to fines, can you start with full forgiveness to get the 11,000 plus folks back in loaning and then move on to eliminating the fines? And I understand that the social justice aspect of it, but if you can't pay for your fines, how are you going to pay for the replacement when the book's never brought back?
I think the encouragement is that you do bring the book back, that it creates the incentive to do so. But I admit that there are issues with that. Commissioner Termini, you've actually picked up a sort of a sophisticated piece to this that I haven't fully addressed. So to take away everybody who owes us late fees would be a much more costly proposition than this. Technically, if you assume you collect them. You see what I'm saying?
Clearly, if they're not coming back to the library, collecting the fees is probably not going to happen. And real, availability and social justice and access to our libraries can only come about when everyone, at least at some point, is ready to borrow again.
I have also worked in a library system that provided a way to work off, and it was designed for children and teens, but through reading. You could read down. So I think there are some programs we could create. I think what you don't want to do, there are some people who are willing to check books out, keep them, and even there's a market. There are especially certain types of books you could sell online. So there needs to be some limit. It might be $100, not 10. But I think these are the kinds of things we could talk about as well. I do think this is the first step. It moves away from the library being seen as punitive that in some ways, I always like to think of them as extended use fees rather than a fine of some sort. But I think the focus is getting material into people's hand, circulating and letting a lot of people use it. And I do believe that late fees are not the best approach to achieving that.
Commissioner Dubin, and then we'll go to Vice Chair Cotter.
Oh, just I definitely agree with the staff report about the late fees, and I also understand what Mike is saying, that maybe there could be some kind of difference between replacement and late fees, and we can have that in the language, and we can have that as expectation, maybe in time or something like that in the policy, so that we do get the books back.
And to clarify, if you don't return the book ever, you will get billed for the cost of the material. What this does is take away the fine for doing it late. Do you know, Eric, how long it takes for it to, I think it takes like 3 months.
I have to double check.
But so, you know, you'll get this material still out, this material still out. But, you know, like, and I'm sorry, I should know my fine. But in a few months, you get a notice that says, you know, that to replace this book will cost $45. Please return the book in the next 15 days or you will be charged.
Mm-hmm. Vice Chair Cotter?
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm strongly in favor of eliminating fines. We did it at the library I worked with previously. It had nothing but positive ramifications. I can remember teaching new trustees and having a couple of them tell me that in their communities, they sent the sheriff out to collect books that had not been returned. And I just
People have done warrants. It's just amazing.
This is just not the kind of relationship you want to have. I would suggest that the idea of eliminating all the people who have past due fines makes a lot of sense. You are not going to get that money back. If you were, you know, if you got 15% of it back, I think you would be fortunate. And it really is a question of access to the library. So I would very much be in favor of that. And I would just ditto everything that was said about the utter ridiculousness of getting another management analyst for $100,000 when you haven't got people to staff the front desk, for goodness sakes.
The one thing I'll say is, and Yvonne, help me remember this. I think to do that kind of financial write-off, we're going to have to do it as a separate board item and bring it to the JPA. So we will create that. I think it's worth doing, but it will probably require a second board package so that, because it's an auditable function.
It's not without precedent. We've done this in the past.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments, questions? If not, I'm going to move to public comment. I believe we do have one public comment.
Yes, Chair Bass, we actually do have caller ending in 362. Your line is open. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Judy again.
Judy, your line is very quiet.
Okay. Okay, is this better?
A little bit, but yeah, so just be mindful. If there's any way to speak up, that'd be great.
Switch handsets. Hold on. Sorry. Is this okay?
Oh, that's much better.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I would like the library to keep very careful track, if you can, of if you change the fine collecting or to eliminate the fines for late fees. I'd like to see evidence of, you know, how that plays out. I know as a borrower, if I knew that I was waiting for a book and it was, delayed in being returned for an unknown number of days or months, I'd be pretty annoyed that I couldn't have the book after a certain reasonable period. So there's that. And yes, as Mr. Termini said, eventually, if they have to replace the material, that's still a hardship. So how do you balance those things? Thanks.
And I believe we have a comment from Jean.
Correct. So there was an emailed comment, item 7B. It says, "My name is Jean Brocklebank. Please read my comment slowly, not fast. Regarding budget recommendations by the LAC to the library director, I like all of the director's recommendations with the exception of the elimination of overdue fees. Fees have nothing to do with equity, nor vice versa. All patrons can check out library materials for 3 weeks, and all patrons have the ability to renew those materials at least 3 more times. There is therefore never any excuse to not return books to the library in a timely fashion. Learning means learning. That includes learning responsibilities when provided free materials. Let us continue to educate children, especially to understand that life is a process of rights and responsibilities for everyone. Thank you, Jean Brocklebank." And that ends the public comments that I have at this time.
And so I'm requesting that you review and advise the director on appropriate strategy for the library's budget recommendations and endorse the elimination of overdue fees.
Do we have any motions?
I'll make the motion to recommend that we eliminate the fee.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Clerk Simona Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Trisha Wynn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter,
Aye.
and Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. So the endorsement of the elimination of overdue fees passes unanimously, and it sounds like in terms of the review and advisement on your budget direction, there's strong support across the commission for what you've outlined here. Frustration with the need for additional analysis and staffing to do that analysis. And I think we'll just want to continue to provide support and feedback to the JPA on making sure that we address and allow the resources for the library to staff up as you guys manage both the challenges of health and safety situations of COVID-19, but also the budgetary constraints that it's presented as well. Thank you all.
Could I just ask, is there any way to, vote for everything but say the expenditure for more analysis, or it's just like they've said it, so it has to be? Is that, there's nothing we can do to make a statement somehow to communicate that we're not really in agreement with that?
You could make a motion that says we don't think that the management analyst position is appropriate at this time.
I would motion that, yeah.
I would second it.
Could we consider, I mean, I'm in support of that also, but I also am in support of moving forward. And if we've been given a map on how to move forward, I'm pragmatic enough to say, let's move forward. But I'm totally frustrated with it, and I think it's kind of overkill. But couldn't we support the addition of that budget item, but say that we think that it's too much and that it's unnecessary, and we think that they should support the library director's best analysis.
So,
So
go ahead.
I feel like we have a motion on the floor. I want to be respectful of that. So we can entertain that motion. Maybe I would present, just to Tricia's point, a potential alternate, which is the chair does report out to the JPA after these meetings. And in that function, I could share or even draft a statement for that. And if you all wanted to call into that to support that statement of the support for the intended direction with some serious concerns around the management analysts, that might be an alternate approach. But if we want to move forward with the motion that's on the floor, I'm happy to do so.
Can we table the motion that's on the floor and entertain a slightly different motion?
That would be a substitute motion?
Yes.
Doable. Yeah.
Well, what I would like to do is make a motion that we support the director on her budget recommendations for the library, and we express our concern about the request for a new budget analyst, which we feel is not necessary or a useful use of funds.
I would second that motion.
We have a second on the substitute motion. I'd like to call a roll call vote on this substitute motion. Clerk Simona Vargas, will you please call a roll call vote on the substitute motion, which is to support the director on the budget recommendations that she's presented and express serious concern about the inclusion of a management analyst as it seems unnecessary. So that's the motion.
Gotcha.
Rather than unnecessary, could we use a softer language, like not a higher priority? Is there a word? I would love to have
unnecessary. I like unnecessary.
No,
that is how I
Inappropriate.
feel.
What about
It's
inappropriate?
appropriately forceful, and this is one of those situations. And you're very nice, Susan. Thank you.
So do you want to repeat the motion one last time to make sure we got it correct?
Let me just double check with, are we substituting inappropriate for unnecessary, or are we keeping unnecessary? Keeping unnecessary.
Unnecessary.
All right. So we'll support the director on the budget recommendations presented tonight, and we're expressing serious concerns with the inclusion of a management analyst, which seems unnecessary.
Gotcha. All right. So Rena Dubin.
Aye.
Mary Ritma.
Aye.
Mike Termini.
Aye.
Trisha Wynn.
Aye.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter.
Aye.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Great. Thank you for the robust discussion on that. Moving right along, item number C, library hours. And just again, a time check, everyone, we're at 7:45.
I just want to say that we talked last time, we talked about what ideal hours might be. And I tried to create principles from our old principles and from some of the things that you all said. But you can see on the front page, we should do this annually, that we need to have minimums at the small branches. We need to have the full coverage, at least in regions. We should take in consideration use, building capacity, amenities, staffing levels, contracts, and costs. And that there are new approaches available to us for extending hours that we should be pursuing. As we begin to look at hours for this next fiscal year, and again, we will bring back specifics next month, but I wanted you to endorse this from a high level. The things that are going to affect us are the public health orders, significant reductions in staff, at least for a while, construction and remodeling of branches, and some environmental factors. So I spelled higher wrong, higher, Higher. So part of what we talked about was putting branches in tiers, sort of by where they were, with there being a level 1, which is the smaller branches, that being 30 to 40 hours a week naturally, level 2 being 40 to 50, level 3 being 50 to 60. I think that some branches fall easily into those tiers. I think there are some branches on the cusp. Branciforte could be the small to the medium. Felton could be medium or large. Live Oak could be medium or large. And to complicate this further is when Scotts Valley closes for 6 months, Felton for sure will end up in the highest tier just because of the. So what I'm trying to figure out is what would they be normally in their tiers and what might they be over the next years as branches open and close. I included where we currently are. And I think the disappointing thing to people is going to be, I don't see the hours changing before July 1st. I do believe the services we offer can broaden, but I don't believe we can cover more hours in the day until we get more staff on board. And it's really important that the JPA approve the hiring of the temp folks in May for us to even hit that July 1st target. So if that articulates what we talked about last time, and I can use that as a framework, next month we will bring to you specific hours. I will say there will at least be 4 changes over the year, just with branches opening and closing. You can see on that second chart that we have openings and closures throughout the year, and we will have to shift hours at those sort of key moments in time. So July, September, probably around March 1st. And with Live Oak, only a short time, I'm not sure, but there might be 4, there might be 5. Questions?
Can I just ask, when we're at this pink level, level 3,
Yep.
is that in your mind the ideal for a library? No.
No. I would, again, my ideal for a library is commercial retail hours, because I think it's what most people understand. In this community, I think 10 to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 10 to 5 Friday and Saturday, and sort of noon to 5 is what retail tends to do.
How many hours is that total? Have you ever figured it out?
I think it's around 65.
65. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is around 65 a week.
So level 3 is close.
Level 3 is close.
Go to 60. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll probably, we had always had downtown as 7 days a week. I think we're going to suggest that it goes to 6, and that we open Branciforte on Sundays as an alternative. So I just want to say, I think we're going to play though with some of the things that we've done in the past. With Capitola being as big as it is, it will be interesting. I do think South County is going to shift usage patterns, and I don't know how that's going to play out. We probably won't fully understand it till Aptos is fully open. I do believe we're going to actually get more patronage in South County because we'll be able to offer so much more than we were able to. But these will be interesting shifts. And we really haven't gotten to see the impact of Felton.
Are there any other questions on the hours? Commissioner Dubin.
You had talked about being creative with the openings, and I was just curious what that means.
Well, so there's several initiatives that we're working on to help us think about how we look at our buildings in a different way. One is community-led programming, where we check out the building to the community after hours. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. So San Jose is a really great pilot for us to look at, but it really extends the use. The second way was checking out rooms to partners. We do a little bit of this. So one's community-led programming, which is programming for the library. Some of it's going to be just partners that are going to check out. It could be Capitola and doing a rec program on Thursday nights in the library, and we're just checking it out to a preferred partner. And then the third one is sort of special occasions, but they could be recurring. Like maybe we decide, Grants of 40, we want to do a Friday night open mic for teens for 3 months in the fall. And so it's open Friday nights for 3 months in the fall, but it's not a static hour, and it's for a specific purpose. I think the Friday arts programs, First Friday in downtown is a good example of maybe we're open the first Friday night of the month, but that's the only Friday night. So we could be more creative about our hours than potentially we have in the past. And we have these beautiful resources. We want the community to use them.
Great question, Rena. Any other questions before we turn to public comment? Moderator Jones, are there any public comments on item C?
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
So given what we've discussed, the recommended action on this item is to review and endorse the high-level approach that Director Nemitz just walked us through around service hours for FY22. Are there any motions?
I move approval.
So Commissioner Nguyen has moved to approve.
Second.
And Vice Chair Cotter has seconded. Clerk Sumano Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Jubin,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Germany,
Aye.
Trisha Wynn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter,
Aye.
Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That item passes unanimously, and we will move on to item D, which is the library statement against anti-Asian violence. And just want to note, Mary caught a typo on the staff report, so just flagging that for you. Thank you, Mary.
Oh, Eric.
Hi, good evening again. Really what we're asking the LAC to consider here is more than just a statement. Susan and I really see the LAC as helping to lead the library around its values and what the community values. And I think many of you feel this way too. Upper management certainly does, that the library is much more than just books. It's much more than just a simple transaction that's occurring. And when you think about American society right now, there are very few public spaces for people to come into and brush shoulders and elbows with their neighbors and learn who their neighbors are and learn who their values are. A big objective of ours is to ensure that the library is everyone's library. And so what we're trying to always communicate is as a beacon for the community to come to the library, and it's welcoming to everyone and that they feel safe. They feel safe to gather with their neighbors, to learn in our programs, to access our resources. And there's been a long history, a sad history in this community and throughout the country where many people have not felt that way. And so we have a lot of work to do to try to create an atmosphere where everyone feels welcomed to the library. And so I think it's important that there's a message that comes out from the body that really helps represent the values of the library, and that they are communicating that message. And so that it's not really just the library management providing that message. And so these are many of the things that the library stands for. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it. I think the recommendation is, of course, that you endorse the public statement, but I don't think anything, of course, prohibits you from creating your own statement if the LAC wanted to do that as well. The library management put out a similar statement. I mean, this year seems to have been the year of traumas, and so we put out a statement earlier in the year, last year, so this is responding to really the latest set of tragedies that we've seen take place across the country with anti-Asian violence. We talked a little bit about some of these values when we talked about Dr. Seuss, some of those messages in there I think could easily be perceived as anti-Asian. This statement tries to make it very clear where the library stands.
So questions, Commissioner Wynn.
Well, I wholeheartedly support it, and I missed the typo. I thought it was very well drafted. The only concern that I had is, although this has been a time of, increased violence against Asian Americans, I also, we've seen a lot of violence against African Americans. We've seen a lot of violence against, tribal members. We've seen violence against Latinos. And so the only concern that I had, and that doesn't mean we couldn't do it serially, but, in picking out one group and saying, we're really unhappy that this group is experiencing violence, it almost makes it seem as if we're not cognizant of some of the other violence that in our community. I do completely support this. I would happily move this. I would just say maybe we should take a broader look in addition to this.
Commissioner Termini.
I was unsure during the staff report exactly what the complete message was, and I take it to mean that the statement regarding anti-Asian hate will be in conjunction with reiterating our commitment to anti-racism and racial equality, as well as reiterating our statement condemning violence and racism towards Black people and people of color. So if all of those are happening at once, leading off with the headline of the day, which is the Asian violence, but we need to reinforce the fact that we're not jumping on a bandwagon. We're not picking out a single racial group, that these people are important as anyone else. And in addition, remember, we also don't want to see anything happening with people of color, and we need racial equality across the board.
Sorry, I just want to make sure everyone knows that the actual statement is clickable under the discussion where it says Santa Cruz Public Library has adopted a statement of a commitment to racial equity. Do you see that? Program services. That was something we did 2 years ago. Well, so maybe I'm confused now. Why did I lose this?
Well, no, I was able to click on all of those. I just want to make sure that all of those statements come forward leading with the anti-Asian, because again, that's prominent in the news, but they need to be reiterated as well because they are still our position.
One of the things so that I think we're doing differently is in the past, we've gone to the JPA. I think the JPA was saying that this should be more of something that's coming from the Library Advisory Commission, as the community standards is sort of the role of this group. And so that's the difference that I'm seeing. I think that these do come out regularly based upon current events. But I think in the future, it will be the Library Advisory Commission's role to endorse or choose not to. And that is in no way contradicts, Mike, what you said.
Let's see, Chair Bass, is there a motion on the floor?
No, we have not gone to public comment yet.
Okay, sorry.
If there are no further questions or comments on the statement, however, I can turn to public comment.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay, and seeing no further questions, we can now entertain motions on this item.
I would move the staff recommended statement on anti-Asian violence, and in addition, making certain that it includes reiterating our position on violence towards all people.
I'd second that.
So we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Termini, endorsing the public statement, condemning anti-Asian violence, and reiterating our commitment as the LAC or as the library.
Well, I think we're stating this as the LAC, are we not?
Okay, okay. Just wanted to verify and clarify. Thank you. Our commitment to inclusion and equity among all groups. And we have a second from Commissioner Ripna, so I will turn to Clerk Samana Vargas for a roll call vote.
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Trisha Wynn. I think you were muted at the moment when you.
Oh, sorry. Aye, sorry.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter. And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. So we come, yes, Commissioner Termini.
Can I editorialize at the end? Why is that so difficult anywhere else? That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can
It was
also
a rhetorical
reinforce
question.
that. Yeah, yeah. Fair enough, enough said. Okay, agenda item E is to select our vice chair. So with Vice Chair Cotter's departure, we do have a vacancy on the commission. I do have a nomination to make, but I do also want to put out to the commissioners, if you would like to self-nominate, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I can move forward with a nomination. With silence, I would like to nominate Commissioner Dubin to serve as our new vice chair of the Library Advisory Commission.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Oh, that's sweet. Thanks.
All right, Clerk Simona Vargas, can we have a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Trisha Wynn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bruce Cotter.
Former Vice Chair Bruce Cotter.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That carries unanimously. Congratulations, Rita.
Thank you.
Great. We've got somebody that will do well with those big shoes. Excellent. Okay. Moving right along, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. I know we're late into the evening here. So our last item on general business is to discuss the meeting schedule.
And Yvonne, do you just want to go through, you did a quick survey?
Yes. You guys, the Library Advisory Commission, requested me to send out a doodle poll to try to gauge if it was possible to switch the day you all would meet. But the results did not have a unanimous decision. So I believe unless you all want to discuss it some more, that the day will stay as Monday evenings.
Great,
And
thank you.
We'll continue to try to get pieces out early. So we did give components of the packet out on the Tuesday before. Does that help?
Yes.
It does.
But the
Great.
full public packet won't be available until Friday, most likely, unless we get it out earlier.
I think that's fair. I feel personally that new adjustments, thanks to some of the recommendations that Vice Chair Dubin, former Vice Chair Cotter put forward around the agenda have really helped. So thanks everybody for all your work on that and making it happen. It's been great.
And do we know if we'll be able to do this in person?
Hopefully after June 15th.
I have started asking the question, but I think it'll be sometime after June 15th.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. The possibility that we can see each other face to face.
I'll bring trees.
So long. Okay. Great. So we'll keep our meeting status quo, continue with the improvements that have been made, and we'll try to make do. And if that becomes untenable at any point, commissioners, please flag and we can revisit. But for the time being, we'll keep it as is. Okay, item 8 is our scheduled upcoming meetings. So the next meeting will be May 17th at 6:30. We have on the agenda anticipated our another library budget update, the library hours, and then strategic planning. So we'll begin those conversations. Any comments on that meeting agenda, Director Nimitz?
No.
Okay. All right, then we can move on to item 9, which is adjournment. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for slogging through all this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great evening. Thank you. Thank you to the public for your comments.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.